Savage, savage, savage.
2019. All right. Now, this is some information I want to disseminate for us, especially now that we're going into a new cycle of a new semester and how we're operating. We're dealing with the private, okay? All of us are not going to have the same standard when it comes to certain things. And so I want to come as a universal principle on explaining the transition. The agenda is we're going to go through the estates, fee simple, remainder man, placeholder, social ownership and equity, social dividend, deferred compensation, public utility, transmitting utility, nationalization, privatization, private sector. Private property should not be confiscated without due compensation. So I'm going to bring all of us as we already are, but we're going to go full circle on it. What's happening is that we're having a lot of individuals that they understand that they're indigenous. They understand these certain things that they know, okay? They understand where they come. They understand where they're going. But what I see happening is that a lot of them are like, okay, I'm an American, Aberdeen, Choctaw National. Accepted and connected myself to my ancestral lineage, which is an estate. Okay, so in the estate law, a term in common law for a person's property, entitlements, and obligation, estates of the realm, a broad social category in the histories of certain countries. The estates, representative body of the estates of realms. Estate general, a suboriginal gathering of representatives of the estates of the realm. Estate in land, grounds, tendencies such as farms, housing, woodland, parkland associated with a very large property. And then it goes on and on to talking about real property estate, which would be actually the body, okay? And so we get over to estate, then we start to see the fee simple, because now we have to know what the fee simple and the fee simple absolute is in an estate in land, okay? Is an interest in real property. Now we're talking real property, and you get into real property to find out we're talking about capital. Then you get into capital, you find out that you're talking about human capital. Now you're talking about means of produce, just products and service. And now we're getting into literally seeing how they're using the service of the body to produce the product, all right? So now we need to get into fee simple and fee simple absolute. Is an estate in land a form of freehold ownership? It is a way that real estate and land may be owned in common law countries. And it is the highest possible ownership interest that can be held in real property, allodial title. Now, we know for a simple fact that allodial title there is also indigenous allodial title, okay? A lot of people can get land patents, but unless you have on the record, that you are an indigenous Aborigine, you cannot hold allodial title, okay? And that constitutes ownership of real property. Real property is out of de facto. Real property is the living man, the living woman. Only a living man, living woman can hold allodial title. And allodial title goes in concert with your land patent. All right, now we're getting into law, a civil law structure. But before I get into that, because you guys are already aware of that structure coming out of that habakla and things of that we're already in concert with that arbitration agreement, right? But I got to continue the story with the estate. Now that we know exactly now we have to get over to these placeholders, these placeholder names, a term or terms referring to something or somebody's name who is not known, or in the particular context is not significant or relevant. So what are placeholder names? What is it in place of? Well, here's some placeholder names. You got a black acre, a white acre, a green acre, a brown acre, and variations of the placeholders' names used for fictitious estates in land. Are we being colorable, people? Is the point. Is the point. Because now we're coming out, because now we're getting into real property. We're getting into estate law. We're getting into understanding what is really going on. And it all goes back to that covenant you made with that estate with your free will when you put it on the record and drew it in through redemption into your living trust. Just how we went and we got our living names, right? We also know that there is another name, okay? It's an actual law.
Black acre is a fictitious tract of land used in numerous legal hypotheticals from times intermemorial. This fictitious name is used in legal discourse to discuss real property issues. When another tract of land is needed in a hypothetical, it is often termed white acre. Black acre is the most celebrated tract of land in the world.
Now we're going to get into socialism. We're going to get into actual stocks that come off of this placeholder name. The placeholder name was a black acre that was used in the fictitious name of the estate for a white acre. So we already went through that local level of status correction to know that that is status. It has nothing to do with a nationality. Now we can move along to social ownership.
For engaging in commerce with placement names that are used for social ownership through to different corporations. To private property.
Now we can correlate all this back to U.S. legal or justia. However, it'll be the same thing. It's just easier to navigate with what the story is going from here. Private property is a legal designation for the ownership of property by non-governmental legal entities. Private property is distinguished from public property, which is owned by a state entity, and from the collective or cooperative property, which is owned by a group of non-governmental entities. Private property can either be personal property, consumer goods, or capital goods. We know that capital goods would be human capital, right? And then we get into that socialism of that feudal admiralty law. There.
Bringing this all together, we see how we have taken the estate, we've turned it into a living trust, we conveyed it into a tribal trust charter. We are delegating and we are handling our affairs. Now we're getting into the private sector. We're getting into being private property, being private parties, okay? So now we're going to jump into the definition of what private property is. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war, federal employee, or public danger, belligerent under Liber Code. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Savage.